My wife cheated, calls it a mistake, thinks it shouldn't break us. We have been married for 8 years and have been together for 10 plus years. We have an 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old son. My wife is also the mother of 3 children from a previous marriage. When we initially moved in together, 2013, she resigned her job and was able to find an administrative position at the firm where I worked. During that time, she and this guy I knew from that business became friends, and he would carpool with her to the home and vice versa. I didn't think much about it when he would take time off and hang out at my place with me. I felt it was a good colleague connection. Before I met my wife, I knew the man. We had hung out together at Christmas parties, etc., he and his wife and me and my wife, girlfriend at the time, and it appeared like a pretty great relationship. My wife would tell me about what he told her, how his wife was pregnant, and so on and so forth, and I never made anything of it. My wife barely lasted about a year at that job. Except for social media, we never hear from man again. After a few years, I decided to leave my job in late 2017 to establish my own real estate firm. Everything has gone sour since I changed careers. Mostly because the first year I spent all of our funds to stay afloat, didn't generate enough money to replace my previous salary, and our lifestyle suffered as a result. To keep up with bills and house expenditures before my company could take off, I had to accept odd jobs and side jobs that didn't interfere with the start of my real estate profession. After we had our second kid, 2015, her oldest moved out, 2018, to attend college, and I started working in real estate. It was a whirlwind of events that strained our relationship. We no longer desire the same things. She would complain about my distance from her and how I was never mentally present in the home, which I confess caused me to fall into a deep melancholy, and I was in a pretty bad place during my first year in real estate. In 2020, we had an altercation in which she claimed that she was needing attention since I wasn't offering it to her. We had stopped having for months at a period, and while I'm at home, my wife spends the whole day watching Netflix. She doesn't want to put the kids to bed, and she doesn't want to do anything else after she's done with work. And I spent much of my time browsing through my phone. After 3 cancellations, I decided to plan a journey to visit my mother. I asked her to accompany me, but she claimed she couldn't because she needed to quarantine before returning to work, and that I and the boys should go. I take my 2 sons to visit my mother. While I was gone, I got a strange sense from her. She was treating me as if we were friends on the phone and over IM, which was strange and unexplained. Long story short, when I return from my vacation, she tells me, "I believe you and I are in the process of splitting up. We haven't had. You don't appear to be happy, etc., etc., etc." I told her I was in a dark place and wasn't feeling emotionally well, mostly because of my relationship with her and how things weren't going as planned at work, but that I wanted to persevere, and that I think we still have a 50/50 chance of salvaging our marriage if that's how you feel. We begin the process of determining what we will do for our marriage and children, and I begin therapy for my depression. Long story short, I pull myself out of it once again by concentrating on job, exercise, and good diet. My business takes off in ways I could never have imagined, and while all of this is going on, we are sleeping together and still married, trying to figure it out. I get a text from that dude's wife with all of the screenshots of my wife and him talking, meeting up for lunches, calling each other babe, sending each other videos and pictures, her saying how she loves his voice and how he wants to see her, etc. Before we had the "I believe we're in the process of splitting up" chat. Even worse, there is a text from 2013, the day I proposed to her, in which she tells him about how I just proposed to her and she had a dream with him. I called her and told her that we needed to talk about this individual, and I inquired as to whether or not she had met him. When she says yes, there is some serious kissing that takes place. My confrontation with her included images of her and him in what seemed to be a house, and she refused to tell me where they were because she felt it would make the situation sound worse than it really was. The next day, I informed her that we were just parenting our children after giving myself a day to think about it all. The fact is, I don't want to be here with you, and I'm planning on leaving as soon as we figure out what to do with the kids. She tells me that this was the quickest and most convenient way out of the situation. WTH. Rather of meeting with an idiot who can't count to 100 is a louse father to his children and wife, has been in jail, and is now on probation. I chose to stay at home and watch television instead. God was kind enough to provide the opportunity for me to meet with this individual the next day. I ran into him in the hallway of an office and kicked him in the shins. I told my wife that they both assumed they would not face any consequences as a result of their actions. Once I had regained my composure, my wife and I discussed it, and she agreed that it was a minor oversight. Did I mention that her last marriage ended in infidelity on both sides of the aisle? In my opinion, she had already decided to give up on me before she even informed me. Her acts, rather than her words, were, in my view, more powerful than her words. And now I'm making decent money, have a successful real estate firm that has been running for 3 years or more, have lost 20 pounds, and eat properly. As she observes me reading, writing, and performing well, she concludes that I have risen beyond my circumstances and should be kept on as a staff member. But I'm perplexed as to how we can go beyond this and back to loving one another when the most heinous disrespect has been committed against us. This is over in my mind, and I don't see it any other way. I'm done with it. Story 2. My female 29. So, male 37 is pro-life and thinks I'm immature because I am not. My partner and I recently had a heated discussion about what we would do if we discovered that our pregnant kid has Down syndrome. I am firmly in favor of abortion. When it comes to her body and future, I believe that a woman knows what is best for her, and that if she does not feel that having a child regardless of any disabilities is a healthy choice, she should be given the option to terminate the pregnancy. But my significant other is adamantly opposed to the idea. He believes that a woman should not be allowed to get an abortion if she is having consensual with or without contraception at the time of conception. According to him, the mother should not be permitted to make the decision about whether or not the child should be allowed to live or be saved. I tried to convince him that, according to that logic, the woman doesn't matter and that her life is worth less than a clump of cells, but he was adamant in his refusal. It all started because if I found out my child had genetic defects, I would terminate the pregnancy since I do not believe I am capable of raising a child with disabilities because of my own challenges and diseases. As a matter of fact, I do not feel it would be fair to us as a family or to the child to be thrown into a life of potential hardship. I tried to explain that we didn't know the degree of the problem and that I didn't believe I could manage having a child with the mental capacity of a 4-year-old for the rest of my life. She didn't understand what I was saying. Apart from that, my sicknesses and limits are hereditary, which would result in an array of issues for a person who is physically disabled. My significant other believes I'm immature and self-centered for believing this and considering myself in this position. Given his career and the amount of money he makes, if I were to have a disabled child, it would very certainly fall to me to provide full-time care. I'm not even sure I want to be a stay-at-home mom at this point, given how much I like my profession and how much I want to turn it into a business. Which of the following approaches will most effectively convince this recalcitrant man that his point of view is not the only one that matters?